Uh-uh.
Lori, we can hear your, I think you're unmuted now.
Oh, okay. Thank you all. I couldn't hear any introductions, so thank you very much, council members, for inviting me. I'm Lori Nijura, Deputy Director of Planning, Preparedness, and Prevention at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. And I'm very pleased to be here today to talk to you about the state's Earthquake Early Warning California. It's a campaign, next slide, that uses the state's, am I managing the slides? I don't think so. It's a campaign that provides tools and resources to warn Californians before they feel the shaking of an earthquake. Next slide, thank you. The system relies, we'll go back one. The system relies on innovative technology that sends warning to smartphone applications, operating systems, and wireless emergency alerts. We'll talk about each of those in a moment. It can help public have information to protect themselves in the event of damaging shaking. It helps first responders It helps utility providers, other businesses and manufacturing, healthcare workers, transit system, and other industrial and business sectors to take actions to save lives. And you're going to see this website again later in the presentation, earthquake.ca.gov. Next slide. So the first component of Earthquake Warning California is the MyShake Mobile Phone Act. It's for devices, iPhone, Android devices, and it uses the California Integrated Seismic Network sensors that are all over the state of California, and those feed data into the Shake Alert system managed by USGS, the U.S. Geological Survey, and provides estimate, then pushes out information via these apps to individuals to let them know of the earthquake's location, magnitude, and shake intensity. So once an earthquake is detected by the sensors, it sends an audio and visual warning to users who are expected to feel shaking. And it instructs them in a voice that I can't replicate to drop, cover, and hold on to protect themselves when the shaking arrives. Depending upon where the individual is and where the earthquake originates, it may give them moments to minutes to prepare for the shaking to come. And the MyShake can be downloaded for free from Google Play or the Apple App Store. Next slide. So there's a couple conditions for using it on your phone. One is that location services must always be on. And then it sends push notifications to the user's phone or mobile device when an earthquake is detected. So this is not an earthquake predictor. It signals when seismic sensors actually pick up the shaking. And it's continuously being refined and upgraded. So one of the concerns in the past has been, well, when you keep location services for an app on all the time, it uses up your battery life. But we're finding ways. UC Berkeley is the author behind this, and they're finding ways all the time to decrease the pull on your battery. Next slide. So UC Berkeley is actually doing something really exciting through the MyShake app as well. And you've probably heard the term crowdsourcing. So what they're doing is they're using all the phones that download the app and receive the notification to kind of crowdsource to provide additional ground motion information. So essentially everybody's phone is a sensor, and it contributes data so that we can learn more about the earthquakes and get better each and every time. Now, I want to be very, very clear that when you download this app, no personal or identifying information is taken from users. We do not store that information. We know it's on almost 1.5 million phones, but we have no idea who owns those phones. Next slide. So in addition to actually providing the alert, there's some really valuable information in the MyShake app. One I've shown you here is the safety pages, the 7 steps to earthquake preparedness. So you can go through the safety pages, you can go through the logs of previous earthquakes, you can even keep a log of all the earthquakes that you felt, and when you feel one, you can actually send information back to UC Berkeley that you felt the shaking, and then you can take like a little survey categorizing how it felt. Next slide. So MyShake is one of the tools that you can use to get these earthquake alerts, excuse me. Another is through the Android phones. So last year, Google partnered with the USGS and Cal OES to actually build in earthquake warning technology into all its Android phones, beginning in August of last year. So it's included in all new phones and operating system updates. So technically, you don't need to download the app. If you have an Android phone, you're going to get the alert if shaking occurs above a certain intensity in your area. However, we still encourage you, even if you have an Android phone, this is what we call in the emergency management world redundancy, and it's always good to have a backup. Next slide. And then the third modality that you can get alerts is through the Federal Wireless Emergency Alert System. This is the same system that they use for Amber Alerts to send to your phone. Now you have to make sure that you're always opted in for emergency alerts. We highly encourage you not to disable that opt-in. And this one, we'll go to the next slide, and it'll kind of show the comparison of the 3 different alerts on the next slide. Wireless emergency alerts has a little bit higher alerting threshold, so they will be used in response to any magnitude 5.0 and above earthquake in your area, and a shaking level of 4 or light. It's called light or greater. They're on the left-hand side of the slide. MyShake and the Android phones actually have a little bit lower threshold, so you're more likely to get an alert if the earthquake shaking is magnitude 4.5 or above. Excuse me. Next slide. So just to recap, the way you can use Earthquake Warning California resources. First and foremost, download the MyShake app and adjust the phone settings accordingly to enable Android earthquake alerts and the WEA, or the wireless emergency alerts. Again, for redundancy. And then go to earthquake.ca.gov to get the latest news and information, help promote earthquake warning resources across California. And then also help us please spread the word by signing up to receive our partner toolkits and materials to share. We have an email there, earthquakeinfo@caloes.ca.gov, and we can get you signed up. And if we go to the next slide, oh, not yet. We'll talk about how, I'm sorry, go to the next slide, please. In a moment, we'll talk about Hemet can actually help us further the cause of earthquake warning. But I wanted first to tell you of a real world test that we all experienced in Northern and Central California on July 8th. In the afternoon, a verified magnitude 6.0 earthquake occurred at a depth of, well, it was up in the Sierras, on the Eastern Sierras, on the California-Nevada border. However, that earthquake was felt as far away on the west coast as San Francisco, as far north as Redding, and as far south as Bakersfield. So it was pretty widely felt. And MyShake and Android sent alerts to devices. Now, originally the system, the sensors themselves picked up kind of mislabeled it and said that there were 2 earthquakes. So if you heard that there was an earthquake near, say, Modesto or Stockton, that one was a false. It was corrected within minutes, and it didn't impact the efficacious alerts that were sent out. So they were sent out and received. And in the 24 hours following that earthquake, we saw 24,000 plus MyShake downloads. Now that our average daily download is about 350. So you can see that when we do have that shaking, people are very concerned, and they go out and they seek those tools and resources that can help them better prepare their family. So the next slide, please. So let's ask ourselves, what can the city of Hemet do? Well, we can provide you with materials to help spread the word about Earthquake Warning California. You can add a button or a banner to your website. You can do posts to social media, and I'll show you in a moment where to find those. You can send e-newsletters to your various departments or your residents. You can create a video, and all of this can be found and more in a toolkit to remind your departments, your public, and your communities not to get caught off guard. That's our theme for this year's campaign. You can go to earthquake.ca.gov/toolkit and you can look up various, we have toolkits for the general public, for businesses and various industries. And with that, next slide, I'm happy to take any questions. Although I can't hear.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any questions, comments?
Just one quick comment. This seems to be the latest evolution of early warning attempts or notification processes. And I know that technology continues to evolve, and I think it is beneficial to that endeavor to make use of these prototypes and evolution. So I would hope that our IT department would take her recommendation and put a link on our city's website so people can get that information, and also our PIO and get it out on social media.
Mm-hmm. All right, we will make sure we share this on social media. I think this will be good to see how it works, and we'll be watching it. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you all.
Oh, he has the proclamation. Oh, perfect. All right, our next item, we have a proclamation that Malcolm's going to read. Yeah, right here. But do we have people here from Public Works? We have people here from Public Works.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activity. And whereas the skilled work of park and recreation professionals strengthens community cohesion and resiliency, connects people with nature and each other, and provides and promotes opportunities for healthful living, social equity, and environmental sustainability. And whereas we value the essential services that park and recreation professionals perform to provide recreational and developmental enrichment for our children, youth, adults, and seniors, and to ensure our parks and recreational facilities are clean, safe, and ready to use. Therefore, Carly Meyer, Mayor of Hemet, along with the Hemet City Council, do hereby proclaim July 16th, 2021 as Park and Recreation's Professionals Day.
Awesome. All right, thank you for that. Next, it's time for communication from the public. Everyone that is here to speak will have 3 minutes each, and we will go through my list. First, do we have anyone online that would like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's anyone online that would like to speak right now, is the time to unmute yourself. Give them a few moments. Seeing no one raise their hands, there's no one here for public comment online.
Okay. So first up, we will have Moises Salazar, followed by Terry Larned. There will be a timer on. Make sure that your mic is on. The green light will be, you'll be able to see it in the front. So, and then there'll be a little flash up here when it's a yellow for 2 minutes and then your 3 minutes. Don't make me get the hook out. So.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Carly, Mr. Malcolm, Mr. Brown, Ms. Cooper, and everyone else here. My name is Moises Salazar. I'm a member of the Light of the World congregation here in Hemet and San Jacinto. Just very quickly, our mission here is to build meaningful relationships within our communities. within our communities through acts of service that represent our Christian values and generate positive social impact. Our vision is to be identified as a positive and inspiring religious community. With that being said, this month of July, I am the community outreach liaison, and we are working on a wellness event for this month of July. This month of July is Wellness Month, and I spoke to Mr. Malcolm earlier today about this. I had spoken with him today regarding this event, and for this month of July, again, we are working on putting a wellness event together. The event will consist of an educational health and wellness seminar for all age groups. The seminar will be provided by a health professional that has volunteered their time to share advice and tips on how to stay healthy and promote wellness in our personal lives and in our families. This will include, includes mental health, physical health, and anything that relates to it as well, social health, as this also, takes part of our overall wellness as a person, as a family, a household, and as a community. The event will be followed by a wellness activity. The health professional that recommend doing a light exercise, such as a very light yoga at a beginner level, just to get everyone in the motion and also to promote that wellness and in their lives, and that they can make a change. In the last couple of months, the pandemic has taken a huge toll on our health, specifically mental health, not just here in Hemet, but throughout the whole world. And I believe doing a wellness event will help people overcome many struggles they're facing. And I would just like to reach out to the city council members and to Ms. Carly, if we can have the support from the city of Hemet and to facilitate a place of gathering, so we can gather as many people as we can as possible from the community at large that can benefit from this wellness event. Again, there will be a health professional there, but of course, I am open to any suggestions from any of you. If we need to modify this somehow or pick a date or something, I put my number down on that form. I will also be sending an email now to all of you, as well as to Mr. Malcolm as well. So hopefully we can, move forward with this initiative.
Do you have a date in mind already or no?
We were thinking of the last weekend of July.
Okay.
However, of course, if we can do anything before that, that's fine. But that was a date that this health professional gave me because they're constantly going in and out of, just doctor visits with their patients and stuff.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Terry Larned.
First off, I just want to, our neighborhood wants to send our prayers to Carly, and knowing that she's strong and that she's going to fight this and that she's going to continue serving Hemet the way she has been. So our prayers are with you, Carly. And if you look at your urban water management plan 2020, page 172 of 740, you're going to see the location of earthquake faults here in this area. And I bring that up because we have this planned housing and commercial development right behind my house, which is in San Jacinto. It does have earthquake faults running through it too. Connie Clark went to the San Jacinto City Council members, and she said that she felt that they were cold and unresponsive. I believe you each got a copy of the email that she had sent out. She sent it out to every council member for this and San Jacinto City. She says that please get on the city council radar. I'm sure that they understand that we have a stake in the property behind the Walmart when it's developed frivolously. I'm not sure if their coldness was due to the fact that I'm a Hemet resident and not one of their constituents. The new owner of this property is a well-known developer with the city of San Jacinto. We need to hold this company to the same standards as a prior developer for this site. Just the traffic alone is reason to be vocal. If it's going to be a nightmare for at least people on our street, because they want to go ahead and take Girard and level it down, turn the end of our street into a cul-de-sac, which means we have to go out on Park Avenue every day whenever we leave the house. It's not going to be pretty for us, because that's a dangerous stretch of road right there. It's right before another light, so we can't put a light there. People come zipping around that corner on Park, and as I'm making a left onto my street, they're coming up, screeching their brakes and honking their horns at me while I'm waiting for the traffic so I can make a left. They speed through there all the time. And they want to make that our only access. They're going to turn Terrace and Cajon into cul-de-sacs, and that's not right. That's irresponsible. That's what I wanted to bring up, because it is going to impact our neighborhood tremendously. I mean, I walk out my back gate and I'm in San Jacinto, and that's where they're going to put the development of combination of homes, apartments or townhomes, convenience store, gas station, all that's going to go into that area. And that's going to increase the traffic alone, just on Girard and on Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Pat Gregory, followed by Marianne Darwin.
First thing I'd like to do is thank Council Members Krupa and Brown for responding to my email that I had sent to them, asking them what law they referred to when they declined to appoint Joe Males as an interim council member. They were kind enough to respond, but in my opinion, their responses are illogical and not at all sensible. The reason I say this is because Ms. Krupa said, and I'm quoting from her email, that the laws that apply to this situation are City of Hemet Municipal Code and California State Election Code. Well, the city manager provided 3 legal avenues, and I'm sure he would be aware of those codes. So 3 legal avenues were available. So it's just nonsensical, her response that those laws said that you could not appoint, or council members could not appoint Joe Males. Made no sense. Council member Brown was a little bit more vindictive. In his email, he said that he believed that he would not vote. He says specifically, my comments reference that I value the rule of law, and since the local and state election laws had not been followed, as indicated by the court's ruling, I could not support directly appointing Joe Males. Again, makes no sense. 2 separate issues entirely. The court never said there was a problem with voting. The court never said there were any issues with the votes. And both council members failed to accept the law of the people. The people voted with a significant majority to put Joe Males in. And instead of doing what the people wanted, these 2 council members wanted to vote in someone through an application process. Was not precedent because there was no vote prior to Councilman Brown coming in. It wasn't. They are comparing apples to oranges. There was no law. There was nothing that prevented them other than their own agenda. And I find that very, very sad, because the people are what's important, not 2 council members who want to put people in through an application process that is not precedent because there was no vote. And here there was. The people spoke and the 2 council members ignored it. And so I say, shame on the both of you causing Hemet to go through an expensive election instead of doing what the people said they wanted. Thank you.
Mary Ann Darwin.
Evening, council. I was at an event on Saturday on Harvard Boulevard, and I noticed down the streets that there is not one trash can in front of any business on either side, not one. So if we keep talking about trash and we keep talking about how we want to clean up Hemet and how, you know, where are we going to put all this trash, it would be nice if each business or every other business actually put out a trash can out in front of their establishment. And I'm not talking just, you know, a plastic bin like we put out in front of our house. I mean, we could really do something with downtown. That is our downtown. And we have nowhere. If you're inside the building, then the food establishments do have trash cans. But if you take your food to go and say you're walking down the street and now you end up with trash in your hand, a lot of people, where's it going to go? It's just going to get tossed on the ground or dropped or accidentally thrown, or, you know. So I would really like for the city council to consider, the businesses are already paying for trash. They're already paying for it behind their building. So it's not putting any more cost onto them for them to put a trash can out front. You just do it as they do at the parks or as we have at the senior center. It's just inside a box, and then they just open it up, pull it out, throw it away, and put the trash can back inside the box. I think it would really add to Harvard, and it would also help us with the trash problem that we have, because there's nowhere to throw our trash. But I just thought about that as I was looking down the street, and I was kind of amazed that there isn't not one trash can out in front of those businesses. So that would be a great thing to consider.
Great, thank you. Next, we have one more e-comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This e-comment received was by Salvatore Secala. Western Community Energy message directed to Russ Brown. I, as well as many, are at issue with the way that the move to Western Community Energy production was silently performed and returned. I and my solar provider received no notice of the charges and was saddled at 100% disabled veteran with a $1,300 bill to pay out of the blue. This is as SCE assumed the debts from the bankruptcy. That concludes public comment.
All right, thank you. Next, item 13, receive and file. Malcolm has something before we proceed.
Is it possible that we could direct staff to look into this housing development project that he brought up and report back to us?
Yes.
Okay, item number 13, receive and file. We have our warrant register. Does anybody have any questions, comments on this before we proceed? All right, with that, we will receive and file that. Next, we have our public hearing. So first step on our public hearing is to consider calling a special election, declaring the results of the election and approving formation of the levy of special taxes for the city of Hemet Community Facilities District number 2021-01, Saddle Point.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Steve Lariso, City Engineer. Tonight, we're presenting to you the public hearing for the formation of the CFD that you just mentioned. This is for the Lennar development between Mustang, Poplar, Fisher, and Warren Road. The CFD is being created for the maintenance of improvements that are going to be located within the public right of way, including street lights, pedestrian lights, landscaping, and stormwater basins. There are two special taxes within this particular CFD, Tax A, Special Tax A, and Special Tax B. Special Tax A is for all the maintenance of those items that I mentioned previously, and Special Tax B is set up only for the areas that are being maintained by the homeowners association. It is only there in case, and it will only be levied if the city determines that the special tax B is necessary in order to maintain the facilities that were put in place to be maintained by the homeowner association. Special tax A is $460 per parcel, and special tax B is $361 per parcel. But keep in mind, again, 460 is the only one that's going to be levied. The first levy will occur in 22-23 on the tax rolls. With that, that's all that I have. I'm here for any questions you may have. We also have the city's consultant for CFD formation services on the phone.
Okay, with that, we will open the public hearing. Do we have any comments in favor or in opposition of?
We received no public comments in favor or opposition.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We will bring that back to staff. And council, do you have any comments, questions? Just one. Thank you for that. So timing wise, if tax A fails, or does tax B automatically come up for vote, or are we voting? How is this actually working? Because it's different than what we normally do.
Yeah, so the reason why we're setting up tax A and tax B is because there are areas that are to be maintained by the homeowner association. That's what the builder wanted to do. But we are going to be setting up a dormancy agreement with the homeowner association, so that way it protects the city and the residents. So in order for Lennar to keep the rates down of the special tax levy, they wanted to set that up separately. So we will only be levying the special tax A. If for some reason the city, not the developer or the homeowner association, determines that the maintenance of the areas that are done by the homeowner association is inadequate, at that point, the city can raise a special levy. We're doing that now, so we don't have to go through the process of talking with the residents in the future of trying to get another vote of the residents.
Okay, all righty. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Microphone, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I can address a point brought up by Councilmember Krupa. One of the additional things that we've been doing since I've been coming in and reviewing development projects is included in the CC&Rs is the ability of the city to utilize the power of the association to cause assessments for default maintenance as well. So we're going to have this ability, and we're going to also have an ability through the CC&Rs to assess the cost of that maintenance if we need to. So we have two avenues for bringing that revenue back to the city.
All right, there's 3 resolutions here for approval along with waiving the full reading. So what is your pleasure, council?
Mayor, I'd recommend that you have to do these in order, one at a time. Yeah,
Okay.
so one of them is calling an election. The next one is declaring the results of the election. So
So you want us to vote on each one separate?
vote-a-rama, one
Okay.
at a time.
All right, so first we have an item number 2, 14A2. So this is the public hearing for that resolution, formation of the city council. This is 2021-01.
Madam Mayor, if I could read the special election results as well, because we did receive 1 ballot. So I did want to interject in
Oh, excellent.
being
Okay.
able to read what we received from the land developer. So we did receive a Community Facilities District number 2021-01 Saddle Point consent and waiver today, and also a ballot measure. And they They voted unanimously, 71 votes on an assessor parcels 454-020-054, 454-020-055, 454-020-057, and 71 votes authorized by William Sacrist, who is a authorized representative and signatory for the developers for Leonard Homes.
Thank you. All right, so back to our first resolution. This is, and we need a separate
Number
vote
2 first.
on, yeah, each one of these.
That would be my recommendation. So the first one is a resolution calling for an election. The next one is a resolution declaring the results of the election. Generally speaking, I recommend that you separate those temporally. I'm not sure if that's been your past practice. Perhaps you've just voted on all of them at once. But that would be my recommendation, council member. You could probably move the resolution identified by 14A2 without reading it in full if you would like.
You're getting confusing.
I apologize.
So actually, number 1 is the resolution formation of the city council to establish an appropriations limit.
Yes, to establish the CFD, an appropriations limit, therefore, and authorize the submittal of the levy to the voters.
I will make that motion. Right, we have a first and a second.
Motion made by Councilmember Krupa, and did I hear correctly, Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal as a second?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That passes 4-0 unanimously.
Following down. Second motion is to call for special election and submit to the qualified electors of the city of the Community Facilities District propositions regarding the establishment of the appropriations limit and the annual levy of a special tax within the Community Facilities District. That is my motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Next, I make a motion to establish a resolution of the Hemet City Council for the city of Hemet declaring the results of the special election in the Community Facilities District number 2021-01 Saddle Point. I am on the right one, right? Okay. And directing the recording of notice of the special tax lien. I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Meyer. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
I will make a motion to waive the full reading, read by title only, and introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hemet, California, acting in its capacity as the legislative body of City of Hemet Community Facilities District number 2021-01 Saddle Point, authorizing the levy of a special tax therein.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for bearing with me, council, on that.
Wow, painful. Don't know how efficient that is, but, okay. Item 14B, adopting the resolutions approving the engineer's reports and levy and collection of assessments for the existing Hemet streetlight and landscape maintenance districts for 2021 and 2022.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Lynn Merrill, Public Works Director. The item before you is your annual assessment for your street lighting and landscape maintenance districts. On June 22nd, the council approved resolution 2021-060, initiating the proceedings and approving resolution declaring its intent to levy assessments for all existing street light and landscape maintenance districts and to levy and collect assessments against lots and parcels. The item before you is 4 resolutions. One resolution is the ordering of the levy and the collection assessments for existing streetlights. The second resolution is amending and or approving the engineer's report for the streetlight. The third resolution relates to the landscaping, approving the engineer's report. And the fourth resolution is the ordering the levy and collection of the assessments. In the audience tonight is Chris Thomas with Harrison Associates, who is our consultant that does the assessments, and he is available to answer any questions from the council. And that completes my presentation.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any comments in favor or in opposition of?
There are no public comments, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. All right, do we have any questions for staff? Any comments? We don't have to vote on these separately, he said. No questions? Okay. All right, with that, do you want to entertain a motion to approve these resolutions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the attached resolutions in the staff report, the engineer's report, and levy and collection of assessments for the existing Hemet streetlight and landscape maintenance district for fiscal year 2021, 2022.
Okay.
Motion by Councilmember Brown, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa, Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item 14C has been moved to the consent calendar, so we can strike that. 14D is the adoption of the City of Hemet 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan pursuant to California Water Code 10610-10656 and 10608.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. In the audience tonight is with us our technical expert, Jeff Helsley from Stetson Engineering, who is the consultants that prepared this massive 700-page document for your consideration tonight, as well as Travis Holyoke, Water and Wastewater Superintendent. This item is actually a requirement of state law, requires the city to adopt an urban water master plan, management plan every 5 years. It requires, and I apologize, it's hard to see the screen. Next slide, please, Scott. It requires long-range water resource planning to ensure adequate water supplies. So what the state has done is that they have adopted requirements for all water utilities to identify and plan for their water operations, water supplies. And the city, as an urban water supplier, is defined as a supplier either publicly or privately owned, providing water to more than 3,000 customers, or supplying more than 3,000 acre feet of water annually, which the city meets. It is required to be updated each 5 years, and it is a requirement if the city were to pursue grants from the Department of Water Resources, the adoption of this plan is a requirement. Next slide. Basically, the key findings of the Urban Water Management Plan, the water use and supply characteristics are one of the elements. Water supply, service reliability, and drought risk assessment. So in order for us to kind of identify what the risks are during a drought, and as we all know, the governor last week declared a voluntary 15% reduction as the state moves again into a drought. Demonstrated reduced imported water reliance, compliance with our SBX7X baseline and targets. It also requires us to have a water shortage contingency plan, which means what are we going to do if for some reason our normal supplies are interrupted. And then finally, demand management measures. Next slide. Primarily, the city of Hemet relies primarily on groundwater from the San Jacinto Basin. Imported water is provided through interconnects with Eastern Municipal Water District. So we basically, in most cases, are able to provide all of our district's water through groundwater. It's very, very rare when we've had interruptions or issues relating to well production or well issues that we have to rely on Eastern. Water sources are managed and reliable. Eastern, as the large provider and as an element of the Metropolitan Water District, provides water through either the California Aqueduct or through the state water program from the Delta. And our basin is actually managed under the Hemet San Jacinto Water Master. They are, it's an adjudicated basin, so the water rights within the basin have been determined and adjudicated in order to make sure that collectively all of us, including Eastern Municipal Water District, City of Hemet, City of San Jacinto, and Lake Hemet Municipal Water District, as well as various private pumpers, do not create what's called an overdraft. In other words, that we use more water than what is accumulating in the basin. The city has the flexibility to manage supply sources under drought conditions. Next finding. Under key findings, we have determined that the city's water supply are reliable in meeting demands. And there's 3 categories in which we do this. During existing and projected normal years, and I'm not sure what that means in the water business anymore, what a normal year is. Single dry, and 5-year consecutive year drought periods through 2045. And so that has been determined that it is reliable. The new law requires the annual assessment of our water operations on an annual basis, and that's a requirement that's given to the city manager. And it does require us to review the current water demands and provide information regarding potential shortages, shortage response actions, and communications. And just to give you some idea of how the law has changed over the years, this is your 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. This is the amount of additional information that has been required by the state in preparation for this report. So the state has undertaken quite a bit of water management, concern about water supply. Next slide. One of the key elements out of the report is demonstrated reduction import water reliance in gallons per capita per day, or GPCD. Now in 2010, our use baseline was 132 gallons per capita per day. And our 2015 target for 2020 was 139 gallons per capita per day. So there was a slight planned increase. However, because of the water conservation activities that have gone on in the last 5 years, especially the issues that the governor did a few years ago in the executive order, our actual 2020 use was 114 gallons per capita per day. So a significant reduction in what we actually achieved, quite a bit of reduction in our target. Our 2045 use projected at the end of the period is actually 120 gallons per capita per day. One of the other elements of the Urban Water Master Plan is a water shortage contingency plan. It does require us to prepare and adopt such a document, and it is included in the Urban Water Master Plan as Chapter 8 for all of our enjoyment and reading. It does contain elements to be implemented during drought conditions and may include potential water supply augmentation, if necessary, and customer demand reduction measures, so that it's a double-edged sword that if we have some sort of a shortage, that we have approaches that we can use. And that's typically, we rely on Eastern Municipal as kind of our primary master supplier. Next slide. One of the key elements of the water shortage contingency plan is correlated to the Department of Water Resources 6 standard water shortage levels that correspond to progressive demand reduction measures. So previously, there were 4 levels of supply contingency shortage that would be declared. One would be less than 15%. The second level was 15 to 25%. Third level is 25 to 35%. These are all target reductions. And finally, 35 to 50% reduction. And in that category 4, that's a pretty severe water supply. What the state has done is fine-tune this into 6 levels. So if you think about it, it's kind of like changing the dial sensitivity from 4 stops to 6 stops. It allows you to a little bit more fine-tune it without having to go to more draconian measures as far as water shortage goes. And this, we will be bringing back to you as we put this in place. We will be bringing back to you in the next couple of months revisions to our water conservation ordinance to incorporate these new changes from the state. So this will be coming back to you. Water shortage contingency plan incorporates existing demand management measures, existing emergency response plan, existing seismic risk assessment and mitigation plan. And the conclusion that the consultants reach and we concur with is the city will be able to meet water demands under drought conditions using existing water supplies coupled with customer demand reduction measures. And as we pointed out, those have already been in place. We've seen that through the 114 gallons per capita per day target. And so in conclusion, the urban water management plan shows that the city is compliant with its 2020 water use target goals pursuant to SBX 7-7. Water supplies are reliable in meeting demands during existing and projected normal, single dry, and 5 consecutive year drought periods through 2045. And with its current demand management measures, the city anticipates having sufficient water supply to meet population growth for our water district estimated by Southern California Associated Governments. That concludes my presentation, and I and the team would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. John Paul is sending us that report, so I think it's already in your inbox, but so that you can have it. It's a lot of information. We appreciate it. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. City Clerk, do we have any?
We have received no public
Comments?
comment, and let me verify online. I don't see anyone with their raised hand, so no comments.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. And with that, we have this resolution to adopt, approving this annual assessment. Questions or comments? Yeah, that too.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Good report.
I'd like to thank the consultants for that.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Travis, for your work on this also. Just a question, is this a file with DWR only, or do they actually have to approve it?
That's out of my range.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, this will be uploaded to DWR's website, and they will review it. If they have any questions, they'll submit questions. If they see anything they think needs to be potentially revised, they'll let us know. And in the end, it's not a formal approval, but they know no further comments, and that's what you want to have on file from them. So it may take them some months to get through that.
Okay, in your experience, have you seen where DWR might come back with some changes or revisions that we cannot actually accomplish?
Oh, that you cannot accomplish. No, I have not seen that. They've caught what they consider to be errors in some plans before, or I think there were a couple of things that really after the fact they determined they needed to be addressed differently. I don't recall seeing anyone who couldn't address any of their comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, and quite frankly, we are fortunate that our water system is centrally located, and we really haven't expanded because we're surrounded by other water companies. So the number of meters probably will not grow much over the years, although I think there are some empty fill-in real estate places that will accommodate either businesses and or housing. And I assume we are taking that into consideration for at least going to 2045.
Yes, that has been taken into consideration. We have determined that we do have adequate resources to be able to provide will-serve letters for any potential development that may come in. Now, if we had something like a water bottling plant come in, obviously that would be a totally different picture, but our resources are stable. On our groundwater, we have, after the sale of the water credits, we still have 4 years worth of water credit available. And we have the ability to suspend that document. So we do have quite a bit of water available. That makes us very unique.
Very good. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Russ, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that report. And it certainly is pleasing to see what we accomplished in conservation of our waters, because we do live in a desert area and water is a very precious commodity. Ironically, yesterday, they had the Cal Cities Riverside Division meeting, and one of the presenters was a gentleman from Metropolitan Water District, and he presented a very dire description of what we're bound to be facing, because and he showed some images of Lake Mead and said that in his experience being with Metropolitan Water for 30 years, something like that, he's never seen Lake Mead as low as it is right now. And they even had an image of a town that was inundated when they created Lake Mead, and there's remnants of that town now high and dry that has now become a tourist attraction, I guess. So knowing that we're kind of at the receiving end of water from the Colorado River and also from the State Water Project, it's good that we have a good story to tell right now, and hopefully maybe we'll see some improvement in the drought situation, but it's anybody's guess. But I think it's noteworthy that this 5-year plan that we have now is as positive as is under the circumstances that are affecting the whole state.
Absolutely. One of the things when the governor came down with the a voluntary last week with the 15% reduction, our team has already begun to do the reduction. So we're reducing our irrigation usage. Something as simple, and this is for the public, something as simple as if you have 10 minutes, you're running your irrigation for 10 minutes, you can achieve your 15% by simply taking 2 minutes off your timer and be able to do those sorts of things. And so we're already doing that, looking at that on all of our parks and all of our landscape maintenance districts. And we are also looking at other water conservation efforts to protect the groundwater that we have, because it is a valuable resource for the city.
Thank you.
So Mayor, if I could just add a couple things, Travis Holyoke and then Tim Burke, their role in the water division is absolutely critical. So just wanted to acknowledge them for attending tonight, but also moving the water division forward. So thank you.
Right, so we have requested to approve this resolution and the annual assessment.
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
yes,
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next is our consent calendar. All consent calendar items are acted upon by a single action of the city council unless otherwise requested to be pulled. Do we have any items that you'd like to pull, council? Oh my goodness, 2 meetings in a row. This is definitely none for you. All right, can we have a motion?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Brown, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes to pass the consent items.
Thank you very much. Next, item 16A, we're on to discussion action items. Designating a voting delegate and alternates for the League of California Cities. Let's see. A staff report that you want to do, or do you guys have?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's, I'll just read the title and recommendation really to, it's recommended that the city council consider designations for the voting delegate and alternates. You can pick two for the League of California Cities Annual Conference and Expo held on September 22nd through the 24th.
Okay, so do you have, who wants to be the delegates? Who was the delegate last year?
I was.
You were. Oh, that's right, because you couldn't get
was.
on.
That's right. It was
Last year
it was a
virtual.
Zoom, and there were dozens of delegates that couldn't get onto the Zoom.
Couldn't access.
But yes, I was the delegate last year.
I would be more than willing to, excuse me, to be the delegate this year, as I am going to conference and have been appointed to the resolutions committee for Cal cities.
Okay, so Linda, and for an alternate, Russ?
I'll be happy to.
Russ is like,
be her
oh, thanks a
alternate.
lot. Okay, Russ. All right, I'll make that motion as presented. Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mayor Meyer, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal to designate Councilmember Krupa and Councilmember Brown as an alternate for the League of California Cities Annual Conference and Expo on September 22nd through the 24th, 2021.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, item 16B. Back to our letter of opposition for, and this is what we requested to be brought back to council. So unless you have any discussion on this, this is one of our future agenda items that we had asked for. So any discussion?
I would just like to thank the staff and the city attorney for their assistance in crafting a letter that was appropriately diplomatic yet firm, stating our position.
Excellent. Yes, good. Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 16B.
And a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal, second by Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Did we vote on 16A?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It was 4-0.
I was looking at something else because if I may, since we're talking about letters of opposition, actually, I just got a request for a letter of support from the league, immediate action on broadband funding for local governments. So if we could take that under
Put
consideration.
it on our future agenda items. We'll do a future.
Well, this is immediate action. Apparently it's going to a vote. But if we could, can we nod our heads and have the city manager? I'm sure you got the same email I just did from Aaron. If to have the city send a letter of support on broadband funding that's in the state, supposedly in the state budget. Okay, there, lean forward.
You can certainly direct staff to look into that matter and take appropriate action. I think that would be fine.
I would like to do that because this is a short turnaround on this particular one.
What do you want us to do? Do we need to add something to the agenda?
In the same way that you directed the public comment for staff to investigate and take further action, you can do the same thing. You do it by consensus. You don't have to take a vote on it.
Okay, so we're all good with this? Everybody? Aye?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, item 16, council update on firework efforts.
So thank you, Mayor. As you recall, the council did take action earlier this year to change some of the enforcement penalties associated with fireworks because it is such a sensitive issue within our community. So what we created here was a baseline that can be used for future years to identify and establish what enforcement activities, what other activities in terms of deployment for our public safety personnel, and what the teams do on a go-forward basis. So the staff report essentially summarizes the items that PD and fire took in order to enforce the new provisions of the ordinance, as well as the detail associated with the staff that were deployed over the 4th of July holiday weekend. Also within the report includes some information related to confiscation, other enforcement measures, as well as the calls for service that were not only received through dispatch, but also through email, through the police department's app, as well as through the voicemail line that had been established by the police department. I believe that we do have Battalion Chief Myshock as well as Chief Poos that are on the line, and they are happy to answer any questions that the council might have. But again, we included this here as a baseline to be transparent to the community in terms of what the activities were, and create kind of a standard by which we can gauge future years' performance on a go-forward basis. So that concludes the report, Mayor.
All right. Do we have any questions, council, for staff? Actually, yes, I do. Just one, and it may sound frivolous, but I notice in the report that the city confiscated 100 pounds. If this is where it's going to sound frivolous, if that 100 pounds was set off all at once, what would happen?
That's a very good question.
I mean, it would be a very big
Did you see on the
boom.
news the LA bomb squad?
Yeah.
Yes.
You could ask them.
Very similar. That would happen here. Yeah.
I just want to say that I really appreciate the effort and the visibility, not only of PD, but of fire through this entire process. Last year, my neighborhood, and I live very close downtown, for probably 2 to 3 weeks, every night was total war zone. I mean, my house shook, my window shook, the car alarm on my car went off. You could hear dogs and kids, everybody screaming and crying and going crazy. This year, I mean, I was disappointed. I had nothing to look at the 4th of July. There was like maybe 2 in my neighbors in my backyard and 1 across the street. And of course I had turned them in. I didn't turn them in. I made anonymous phone calls. Actually, I wasn't anonymous. I left my name and my number and said, this is where it's coming from. Because, bottle rockets are bottle rockets, but they cause fires.
Yes.
And that always scares me because I have 2 big, tall palm trees in my backyard that have skirts on them. But it's the noise of those big things that just fry your nerves. And I did notice that if PD is on the line, that for the last 3 nights, there's been 1 boom going off in my neighborhood right about 10:30. So if anybody's patrolling that area, that would be appreciated. But you guys did an excellent job and coordinating with CAL FIRE and with the sheriff and everybody on the same page. You did a fantastic job. So congratulations to both PD and fire for an excellent job, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'll make sure to bring that back to our personnel. They'll really appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
And I'd also like to extend appreciation for the first responders' efforts on this. I know that it's kind of a pain in the butt to have to deal with, but I think taking the proactive measures that council did by modifying our ordinance gave you another tool in your toolkit to address. So I'm just curious, and you may not have this at your fingertips, but I see that we wrote 25 citations. Do we have any estimate of how many of those citations were issued that we would not have been able to issue had we not modified the ordinance?
That would be a question for Chief Poost.
Chief Poost, are you there?
council member, perhaps I can take a stab at it. My understanding is all of the citations were issued for $1,000. And since that is a new element of your ordinance, I guess I would say all of them would not have been able to be passed into your previous ordinance.
Yeah, I think the biggest Achilles heel to our old ordinance was we actually had to see somebody and catch them in the act. And whereas the new ordinance allows us to cite the property owner. So very beneficial. And I think having this report is going to be a good foundational benchmark going forward into future years and have something to compare to and continue with the public education and enforcement efforts. So good job. Thanks.
So actually, Chief Poos is on the line. He said that he couldn't be heard. I don't know if it's something on our side. Chief, are you there? He may be having some technical difficulties on his side, but we'll follow up with an email.
One more thing on this. Just for curiosity, and you know how I am, I participated in 15 hours of, I don't want to say undercover but I did use somebody else's car. In my neighborhood, we were looking for fireworks. And so if I were, well, first of all, I am aggressive, right? And if I were a law enforcement officer, those 3 nights that I spent with all the fireworks going off in our neighborhood, I could not still today give you one address. And so it takes so much time and so much coordination. And those of us that were participating, I mean, we still couldn't. And so I think that's a testimony to the fact that we were able to give 20. Some people don't understand that that is so much work. So I think that's important to note.
And I think it is that, and like I said, the app and the phone number to report was utilized this year quite a bit. And I noticed on at least 2 occasions in my neighborhood where there were police patrolling and fire was out because one of the fire engines was going up and down Acacia Avenue, probably as a pre-warning to don't start a fire, but it was appreciated. But that you could hear whether it was a bottle rocket or a boom, boom, boom or something on the ground. And then you'd hear the doot, doot, doot of the police siren, or, you know, how they just go, they give you a little chirp instead of hitting you with the full, you know, every lights and camera. And it was great. I mean, it was, I sat in my living room and just said, okay, one more. And I think that really made it at least quieter down in my neighborhood. And I appreciate it extremely.
And with all the, like you said, I feel like there were less fireworks this year. I think this year we had the most amount of fires compared to last year.
Yes.
We had, 20 fires, 19 were from fireworks.
Exactly.
And I was on scene for a few of them and right in their people's backyards. So whether it was the neighbor shooting it or someone and it landed, it was a big danger. And I don't think people understand. So. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Item number 16D, update on Simpson Park. Use hours during fire season.
So Mayor and Council, this item is a report back on the actions that we'll be taking in alignment with the county. And so we can have Battalion Chief Maisha provide an overview of what's before the council. Is just an informational item.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Meyer, council members. I'm here to provide you an update on the closure of Simpson Park. What the fire department's recommendation is, and in discussions with the city manager, is to alter the hours of Simpson Park so that from 12 noon to 6 a.m., the park will be closed. From 6 a.m. to 12 noon, the park will be open. And that will provide the visitors that come and enjoy the park to be able to still have use of the park. It will be during times of the day where the heat index is lower and also the potential for fires is also lower. So our recommendation is to close the park from the hours of noon to 6 a.m. and leave it open. In order to accomplish this, we've been working with Public Works. Public Works is going to provide signage and install signage in Simpson Park in order to inform the people that visit and use that park. We've also contacted the Hemet gatekeepers, and the Hemet gatekeepers will be tasked with doing the opening and the closing, the physical opening and closing of the gate, as well as driving through the park and making sure that there's any visitors that leave the park in a timely manner once the park is closed. So that is the plan moving forward. Our estimated, this will go into effect starting July 21st, and then the park will reopen to full capacity January 1st. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
My question is, and I don't know that it needs to be answered tonight, but July 21st through January. And so we often get complaints of like the fall weather is nice and cool and people want to go up there until 6 o'clock. And so I don't know if there's a way for us to reevaluate that.
Yeah, I think
when
that's
the season begins.
I think that's a great idea. And I know that we've been working with the county fire chief when there are those instances where the weather starts to cool down towards the fall, that we do have some flexibility there. So we'll absolutely be working with the county fire chief and making sure that we are aligned with those closures.
I do love the fact that we're not just closing the park all the way. So a hard closure is rough on everyone that likes to go and do outdoor events. Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but currently, doesn't the gate open and close automatically?
It's a manual gate.
It is a manual
Yeah,
gate.
it has a chain and a padlock on it.
Okay. Okay. What would it cost to put it automated on there so we don't have to pay people to do that?
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. It is automated.
I was going to say, so many of my, well, I won't say my.
The gate is
people
actually on a timer.
on a timer.
And so it automatically opens in the morning, and then we will adjust the time to close at noon. One of the things that we've worked with fire on is that with the Hemet gatekeeper, we're going to actually ask them to show up at about 11:45, drive through the park with a loudspeaker to announce the park closing, similar to what you might do in a restaurant or a commercial activity. And then because the gate is on an automatic timer, there is no pad that will automatically open it. So any vehicles that are up there during the, after the gate closes are in essence trapped. And so to address that, we've asked Hemet gatekeepers to stay an additional 15 minutes and be able to allow them to release any cars. So we're going to be very proactive in terms of that. And as the battalion chief mentioned, we are working on signage to make sure that the public is very much aware, as well as signage on any of the trails. So we're working on that as well.
Okay. And I would hope that we really put this out all over social media so that people are aware and notify the people who actually use the park up there. Because I mean, it's a wonderful wildland facility, and
it is. It's a wonderful park, but it's also very overgrown.
Yes.
And the continuity of the fuels are very large and very continuous. And the smallest spark from a chain or any type of spark, that park will go up and have a very, very extreme fire behavior.
Well, I appreciate your efforts in fire season out here, which used to be only a few months, that is now up to probably closer to eight to 10 months out of the year. We need to be as proactive as possible. But thank you for the report.
Thank you.
I do have one question. I'm looking at the map, and I see depicted on the map there's a red boundary area, and then there's a black boundary area. And if I recall correctly from my discussion with the city manager about this, the area that CAL FIRE closes off is different than our area, and would there be any advantage or benefit to the city to coordinate the boundary areas? I mean, obviously fire doesn't recognize any jurisdictional boundary, and the whole intent of the closure is to minimize the risk, right? So would there be any benefit to working with CAL FIRE to see if we can consolidate and come up with one uniform boundary area?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that we can open up those conversations with Chief Weiser and come up with a unified boundary that will encompass it all.
I think that would be beneficial, especially for the public, to know that we're in lockstep with the county on
Yeah.
the areas that are open and the areas that are closed.
Absolutely, because we know if a fire starts in county, it's going to come to Hemet. So it's important to be in coincide with the county.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Item 16E, the Hemet Fire Station 1 mural refresh project.
So this one is actually a really exciting project that we wanted to provide an update to all of the council and the community on. Earlier this year, we did have an opportunity or a request from the local Rotary Club to see if the city would be interested in having Mount San Jacinto students freshen up the mural outside of Fire Station 1. And so we thought it was a great opportunity. And so in tandem with the 20th anniversary of September 11th, the team will be working alongside with Mount San Jacinto to get this coordinated. I'm probably leaving a ton of details out that Councilmember Krupa may want to talk about. But the only thing that we are doing is ensuring that we aren't opening ourselves up to any sort of exposure. So we are, the city attorney has drafted up a waiver to ensure that anybody that's on our premises, they will be using scaffolds, is taking the right precautions, and the city wouldn't be liable for anything that might occur. But beyond that, that's the update that I have. I'm sure other council members may want to provide additional details on that, Mayor.
I will. Thank you. I believe it was in 2004 that the Rotary Club had this mural done originally, and it was Mount San Jacinto art students who did the mural at that time. And if you haven't noticed it on Station 1, you need to go over there and look at it, because it really is a wonderful mural dedicated to the unwavering braveness of our first responders. And over the years, it has faded from the sun and whatever. And with the 20th anniversary of 9/11 attack coming up in September, we thought it would be nice to refresh the mural. So Hemet Sunset Rotary, Hemet Rotary went to the college and asked if they wanted to participate in again. And we are funding the project. Mount San Jacinto students are doing the actual work, and Salvation Army is supplying the scaffolding, and all to be covered under insurance by the college, which is
That's
really
awesome.
good. We looked at what we could do and said, well, why can't Rotary insurance, pay for or do the liability insurance on it? And there's a technicality with Rotary that if Rotarians are doing the actual work, the liability comes into play and will cover the project. If we are simply providing the funding, it is not applicable. And the college apparently has one similar to that, in that their people are actually doing the work, so their liability will cover it. So anyway, we wanted to get this done, and just to have some type of public rededication of the mural prior to 9/11. And so maybe the week before, something like that, we could
The Saturday.
get the word out and just have a gathering of people and a few words by everybody, just honoring and commemorating 9/11, but also as paying current tribute to all of our first responders. So I I think it's a great idea. We were all excited at Rotary when one of our members, actually was our incoming, our Governor Dan Goodrich, brought this to us and said it's time for a refresh for the 20th anniversary. And we all said, absolutely, we're on board. So here it is to
Thank you.
get
It sounds
city
awesome.
council approval.
Yeah. Well, I think this is just to receive and file. Yeah, it's already. So, all right. Any other comments? Thank you, Rotary Group. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And it seems, I mean, including the students, it is truly a community project.
Yes, it turns
Mhm.
out to be a win-win situation, and hopefully we'll get some, maybe a few just bystanders looky-loos when the students are actually doing the work, because it's going to be fun to see that come, excuse the expression, but come to life again, because it has faded over the years. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great. All right. Item 16F is a resolution approving investment advisory services to be provided, providing a firm for our investments.
Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here to provide some information on the investment advisory services that we put out for RFP. Go ahead. On March 9th, 2021, Council approved an ordinance adding Division 6 to Article 3, Chapter 2 of the Hemet Municipal Code related to the city treasurer, as well as a resolution delegating investment authority pursuant to Hemet Municipal Code Section 2-15. Next slide. Council also directed the city manager to solicit proposals for investment advisory services. On March 10th of 2021, finance staff posted a request for proposals, or RFP, on Planet Bids with the due date of April 8th of 2021. And the city received 5 proposals, which we will go over shortly. The city currently has approximately $128 million in pooled cash balances for all city funds, including the general fund. Of this amount, the city will need approximately $10 million at the start of the fiscal year, or in this month, to pay insurance premiums for liability and workers' comp, as well as the prepayment of the unfunded PERS liability, which, as a reminder, generates a savings of about 3 to 4% of our total unfunded liability payment for the year. Cash balances are spread over checking, money market, and LAIF accounts, as well as some long-term investments. All city investments must align with the city's investment policy. Current long-term investments, meaning they are 12 months or longer period of time, make up approximately $22 million of the city's portfolio. So as I stated before, the city did receive 5 proposals. Each firm that sent in a proposal had a little bit of a different breakdown on how they charge for their services. Public Trust Advisors charges for assets under management. The fee for the first 50 million that they manage is 7 basis points, or 0.07%. Then anything over 50 million is charged at 0.06%. PFM, same thing. They have a different breakdown. Theirs are broken down in $25 million increments. So they start at the first 25 million is at 10 basis points. The next 25 million at 8 basis points. The next 50 million at 7 basis points, and anything in excess of 100 million at 6 basis points. IBN is a little bit different in that they don't just charge per basis point. They have all the services that were included in the RFP with an estimate of 90 million in investments, with a $75,000 flat annual fee. And then in addition to that, they offer consulting services for $200 an hour, and additional funds beyond the 90 million would be between 7 and 9 basis points per year. The last 2 proposals that we received, one from Garcia Hamilton and Associates. The first 25 million is at 15 basis points. The second 25 million is at 13 basis points, and anything in excess of 50 is at 9 basis points. And then finally, Chandler Asset Management with total assets under management. If it's 50 million in total assets, they charge 9 basis points. If it's 60 million in total assets, they charge 8.5 basis points. 75 million, 8 basis points, and 100 million at 7.5 basis points. So those are the 5 proposals that we received. It is important to remember that we must maintain adequate cash balances in order to meet our city obligations throughout the fiscal year. We don't have a consistent flow of revenues coming in. 2 of our biggest revenue generators are our sales tax and our property taxes. Sales taxes are always about 2 months in arrears, so we always have to keep that in mind, and true-up payments only come in once per quarter. Property taxes, the bulk of it is received in 2 lump sum payments, and those payments come in after property owners pay their December 10th and April 10th payments. So we really end up seeing those payments in late January, early February, or late May, early June. And those are 2 big payments, and then everything else is very small. So really with the July 1st fiscal year start, we don't see any property taxes or very, very little property taxes until January, February. And so we need to make sure that we keep enough in more liquid accounts such as checking, money market, and LAIF to make sure that we can continue to pay our obligations. Staff recommends a long-term investment portfolio not to exceed $65 million, and it is just a recommendation. And I use that number to provide an example of what the different firms would cost based on 65 million. So as you can see there, Public Trust Advisors would cost the city an annual $44,000, PFM $55,500. IBN again has the flat fee of $75,000 for anything up to 90 million. Garcia Hamilton and Associates $83,500, and Chandler Asset Management at $52,000. When staff prepared the fiscal year 21-22 budget, there was a proposal to include $60,000 for investment advisory services, knowing that we were going through this process. Although this is a new cost in the budget, it was adequately planned for, and it maintains a balanced budget for the general fund. So this is already included should council decide to go this route. Council may direct staff to prepare a service agreement with the firm of their choice and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. Council may also elect not to contract for investment advisory services and either hire an employee to do it or assign it to someone within finances usually who ends up doing it. And that is all I have. I am open for any questions.
Right, any questions for staff? Yes, and just a couple comments. You said all of these estimates or annual costs are based on 65 million or up to 65 million.
I based it on 65.
Okay, thank you. I just would say, first off, this is something at this point in the city's history that we absolutely need to do. How we do it, I'm not totally sold on. However, it is not cost effective to hire a qualified person on staff just because of all of the cost overhead of having employees. I don't think a current employee, while they could do it, they have the expertise and the qualifications to learn the job and do the job. I think that our staff is fully burdened with enough work at this point. So my thinking on this is that we would look to the least two costly firms and ask staff or direct staff to talk with them and get all of the details of exactly what it is. And
let me interrupt you.
Okay.
I think that we need to decide tonight. We
On
can't, we
which one?
can't, yeah, we need to decide. So
Then
I'm,
yeah,
which
just
one
go
do you
with the
prefer?
lowest cost one.
Yeah, otherwise I was looking at Chandler
Public
to
trust.
look at who is using.
Which one was the closest physically? Was that Chandler out of San Diego? Are they out of San Diego or LA? Do you know? I wrote it down at home. and-
Chandler, San Diego. They're used by Murrieta, San Jacinto, some local
Right.
cities. So at least we have like.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't like the flat fees. Flat fees are wonderful if you've got $1 billion in the bank and they're only going to charge you $100,000 to manage it. But hands are tied on public municipal investors' hands because not only of the city's ordinances and policies and protocol regarding investments, but also the state of California. And at this time in the marketplace, there's not a lot of places that a municipality can invest to make any money. So I guess I'll narrow my scope then. And I mean, we've got to choose one of these. I don't have a problem with public trust advisors. If they're in LA, they are in LA.
I don't recall their location.
I think that one's LA.
I think the Garcia Hamilton, weren't they the ones that out of Texas?
I don't remember where.
Well, one of them was out of Texas anyway. But then just make a motion to go ahead and get it done. And did you by any chance? Well, I think we need to know what. Then will they bring their recommendations to us on what they're going to invest up to six?
So
or
this is
65
what's
million
going to happen.
that we're
We
gonna have
will,
that
if we
conversation.
tonight approve which one, then we will direct staff to negotiate a contract. And so then the investment committee,
Will
our
meet
ad hoc can meet with them and then
Okay.
hear the proposals. All right. They're just going to tailor it to us and what our needs are. The one thing that I feel like we need to change, and I was going to call you about this, but in the resolution, we actually put the amount $65,000 in the resolution as a cap. And that's almost as bad as putting a name in a resolution because our investment policy already addresses the amount and it talks about keeping 6% liquidity. Because the amount, I mean, if we get more income one year, it doesn't mean, oh, we're not going to invest that. We have to be able to be moving with the scale as we're bringing in income. And if we're hiring professional investors, we probably shouldn't be limiting them with a number if our investment policy is different. Do you understand what I'm saying, City Attorney? That's the only thing that I would change in this is so that it matches our investment policy. And if you want the cheaper one, I have no problem with that either.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm good with that. Well, this is a not to yeah, that is in there.
because
Not to
what it
exceed.
does is when we put a not to exceed, then we are limiting the professionals from doing their job. But if we have it match our ordinance that we have, our investment policy that we have already, and we passed it, I'm sure by a resolution, that it is leaving 6% liquidity. I mean, that's the point, right, of having a limit. So right now, six months is probably using 65, and so if we leave the language matching the investment policy, then it will ebb and flow. Hey, you never know, we might get a lot of money.
And that would be nice.
That's my only.
I'm looking at
recommendation.
legal and city manager.
So I did just bring up copies of the urgency ordinance and the resolution that we passed back on March 9th And so one of the things that we did, or the city council did back on March 9th, was amend the existing investment policy so that all references to treasurer now say city manager or designee. By adopting the resolution that you are contemplating tonight, you would be designating this firm to be responsible for complying with your investment policy. So to the mayor's point, they are going to be responsible by the terms of our resolutions and by our ordinances with following the existing investment policy that we have. To the extent you want there to be some explicit language, we can certainly make sure that that is in the service agreements that we have. That they
But what I'm
agree.
worried about is the resolution right now, as it puts a cap of 65 in there, and we shouldn't, we need to have that number needs to be the sliding number as per our investment policy. That's
So-
the only little edit that
So
needs to happen.
the idea is to strike that number, which, let's see here. I'm looking at the resolution now that I have approving the
I'll find
investment
it.
advisory services. And it is a whereas clause, I think, that the mayor is referencing. In order to maintain adequate cash balances to meet city obligations, staff recommends an investment portfolio not to exceed 65 million. So that would not be an operative part of the resolution, but I see that could be confusing. And so,
Let me find out.
perhaps that whereas clause, if passed by the council, could be amended to simply say that in order to meet adequate cash balances, the city council desires the selected firm to follow the city's investment policy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think just simply a reference to the adopted investment policy, which already has the safety and liquidity
Right.
as part of it, I think would be.
yeah, I just think it's confusing if it has not to exceed amount in the whereas, because that can be interpreted.
Oh, I guarantee you,
Whoever wants to interpret it.
if we went over 65, someone would say we're violating the resolution.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
that makes sense to me.
Referring back to the investment policy is good.
All right, so are there any other questions or discussion on this? We will call a investment oversight committee meeting with everyone on the committee ASAP.
Okay, sounds good.
That'll be perfect.
So do you want me to restate my motion?
Yes, let's do that.
Then I would make a motion that we designate public trust advisors at an annual cost of $44,000 to be the
New designee.
new
for investment,
designee of in the city of Hemet's investments,
and then amending.
and to make it an annual contract with whatever renewal and cancelable contract terms that are allowed by law,
And then amend the resolution.
and amend the resolution to take to have the last whereas refer back to the city investment policy and not a set number.
And then within all that, just authorize the city manager to work with the city attorney to finalize that agreement, correct? Okay.
Right, I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Meyer. Councilmember Krupa,
Yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes,
That motion passes.
excellent, thank you. All right, item 16G.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm scrolling through the urban water management plan back to the top. Thank you,
Got an
Public
iPad.
Works. Okay, 18G. So this is a follow-up item to direction that was given by the city council at the last meeting, where the city council asked to rescind the state of local emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can tell, I did have some whereas clauses in here, but I tried to keep it short and to the point. I did get some questions about what the effect of rescinding the local state of emergency would be, and I wanted to address that. As a practical matter, when it comes to two things that I would be concerned about, potential sources of funds for reimbursement of city costs related to the emergency, and the use of emergency powers under the city's municipal code. So long as there is a state of emergency declared statewide, that should have no effect on our ability to seek reimbursement, because as we are within the state, we are subject to that statewide state of emergency. And our municipal code, when it references the Director of Emergency Services, authorizes him to utilize those powers during a city declared state of emergency or a statewide declared state of emergency. So I don't want to say there's no practical effect to the rescission, but I would say that insofar as there are concerns that the city may be leaving money on the table, or that the city may be unable to respond if there is a significant change in the environment, both of those bases are adequately covered by the existing legal framework that we have in place.
Excellent. I like when you both present things when you let us decide. I appreciate that. Okay, are there any more questions for staff?
Just a comment. I appreciate the earlier conversation with the city attorney addressing questions that I had that he just shared. Clearly, when this all began, I think it was very appropriate that the city take action to establish the declaration back in March of 2020, because at that time we didn't know what we didn't know. And it's my understanding that one of the major benefits of declaring a local emergency is that starts the clock running on when the city would be eligible for any reimbursement for mitigation. But in light of the fact that the state has changed its position, although it is still pretty fluid at the state level, we are still working under the state declaration. And as long as we have assurance that our ability to recover associated costs are covered under that, at this point, I don't have any objections to rescinding the order.
And the fact that we can call a meeting fast if we need to.
Yes, just like we did
Right.
back on March 16th of
Right.
2020.
Exactly. All right.
So if there's no other comments or questions, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we rescind our emergency declaration.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Brown, second by Mayor Meyer to rescind the emergency orders. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Krupa, Mayor Pro Tem Millenthal,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Item 16H.
So Mayor, we have Veronica Allen from the City Manager's Office that will provide the update and the overview on this item.
Good evening, Mayor Meyer and council members. On March 11, 2021, the American Rescue Plan was signed into law and established the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program, which is referred to as SLFRF. This program is designed to deliver $350 billion to support state, territorial, local, and tribal governments in responding to the economic and public health impacts of COVID-19 and efforts to contain impacts in the communities, residents, and businesses. $130 billion was allocated specifically to local governments. Under the SLFRF program, the city of Hemet has been allocated a little over $21.6 million. The funds will be paid to the city in 2 equal allotments, the first already received and the second in May of 2022. The funds may be used for any allowed purpose starting on March 3, 2021, and must be encumbered by December 31, 2024. Funds that are encumbered during this period must be spent by December 31, 2026. Funds not spent by the end of 2026 must be returned to the federal government. There are 4 areas of funding use. Support public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff, or address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including economic harm to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector. Provide premium pay for essential workers, offering additional support to those who have borne and will bear the greatest health risks because of their service in critical infrastructure sectors. Replace lost public sector revenue using this funding to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue experienced due to the pandemic, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and to expand access to broadband internet. There are reporting requirements for this funding. The Treasury is requiring each local jurisdiction to submit an interim report that is due on August 31, 2021, to report programmatic data. A recovery plan performance report will provide information on the projects that recipients are undertaking with program funding and how they plan to ensure program outcomes are achieved in an effective, efficient, and equitable manner with key mandatory indicators. The initial recovery plan is due to Treasury by August 31, 2021. A 12-month period recovery plan will be due to Treasury on an annual basis. The recovery plan must be posted on the public-facing website of the city. On a quarterly basis, project and expenditure reports are due to report data for awards and subawards, demographic information for each project, and other programmatic data. The first project and expenditure report is due October 31, 2021. On June 22nd, 2021, Council adopted the city's strategic plan. The 5 goals of the strategic plan are quality of life, to ensure that Hemet is safe, clean, attractive for all who live, work, and visit. Economic opportunity, to ensure that Hemet is a hub with access to quality jobs, shopping options, and a varied and sustained tax base. Community engagement, to connect and participate in a constant dialogue between members of the community, city staff, and elected officials to promote togetherness and positivity. Partnering and collaboration, to pursue partnerships that will increase the opportunities available to the community, including our businesses, unemployed, and youth populations. Organizational effectiveness, to identify the work needed inside the city organization to effectively provide services to the community and ensure financial stability. Under each goal are some areas of focus SLFRF funds can be utilized. For the next steps, community engagement is an important required component in reporting SLFRF funding. Therefore, staff will begin community engagement efforts and will be sending out a survey to the community for input on use of SLFRF funding and gathering data. And staff will bring forward the proposed projects that align to council discussion, community input, and Treasury rules. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Right. So we have here on our staff report, if I can get to it. Do we have any questions for staff? Tonight, we're not approving what we're spending the money on, right? You guys understand that?
Just for clarification, thank you for that staff report, and there's a lot of moving parts to this, to say the least. But just for clarification, I wanted to make sure that if we're talking about infrastructure, that it would be an appropriate application of these funds to do, for example, any of our water department projects. We know we have an aging infrastructure. We've had to make repairs on water main breaks already. We've had to make repairs to some of our well sites. So it would be appropriate to utilize these funds for those kinds of services because it addresses water quality and water service delivery.
Yeah, so one of the key pillars within the ARPA rules that have been provided is exactly that: clean water, sewer and water infrastructure. So basically the plan for this conversation is we will take whatever comments, ideas that the council might have, and we're taking copious notes here, and then we will then package those up to bring forward at a later time. But we want to make sure that the council has an opportunity to freely talk about what those things might be in accordance with the staff report that Veronica provided, as well as the guidance that has been included in the staff report. So Councilmember Brown, that's an exact type of item that we are taking notes on. And then if there are any other items that the council may want to talk about, we can certainly explore that, look into the guidance that's provided by the Treasury, and ensure at a future date that those are aligned. But right now for staff, we're just taking notes, getting input from the council to see what items that the council may want to prioritize.
And my other comment or question was, since we made use of our CDBG funds for small loans for local businesses, do you have any estimate of where we stand on that? What percentage of those funds are being requested by local business? Because obviously one of the other options for disbursement would be to support local businesses impacted.
I don't have an exact number, but I do know that there are still businesses out there that are unaware of funding opportunities that are available to them, or they could be afraid to apply for funding. But we can definitely use the ARPA SLFRF funds to assist small businesses.
My only issue with using it for all these water things is that you can get so many grants for water things. And we have our down money that we could use for water issues. So.
Yeah, so if there are other areas that the council would like to prioritize, now's a perfect opportunity for us to explore and
Go
look
down
into
the
that.
list and I think one of the top things on our priority list was homeless solutions. And I see on here, there's mental health, there's substance abuse, this would be a good time to look at the city net or the, swag. I don't think that even touches the total amount that we have here, but that's a small amount. And under mental health services could be, I don't know, services that the county provides already, but things that we could maybe beef up for our city specifically. We would have to get some ideas from them, I guess. You know how they provide things for our city, but it's like, this is how much they put, if we put a little more into it, they could add services, then it wouldn't be our employees, but.
Yeah, and with the mental health services, even looking at increasing the number of personnel or number of hours that some of the county's outreach counselors spend with our police officers going on their beats.
So just in that vein, Mayor, one of the things about these funds is that you can give them to another government agency that's qualified. So that plan would certainly work.
And I think it would be, something we'd have an MOU with or something, but.
I just recently did see a neighboring agency that did partner up with the county to do services. So that's certainly something we can look into.
Okay, that's excellent. That'd be good. Even it says other public health services. The housing is big. Keep going. There's a statement in here that says something about a report being due by the end of August that details what we have spent from March to July 31st. Have we spent a dime? Are we expected to spend money in the next 2 weeks?
So there is a component that's included in the staff report, and it is a compliance item. You'll notice that in the staff report, we list about 9 items that are required for the city to report back to the feds. One of those items is community engagement, and I believe it's page 31 of the guidance that was provided in the backup that talks about what the community engagement component is, or what the city is required to do. So we will be partnering up with the group that's identified in the staff report to do whether it's surveys to hard to reach individuals, individuals that are underrepresented. The feds do place a significant priority on making sure that the city or the agency has reached out to those difficult populations. So we'll be using a group that's identified in the staff report to assist with that, more on the data collection side to ensure that when we report back to the feds, that we have the information that they are seeking.
And this is, again, just, I know both the California, the league and National League are preparing calculators and giving assistance and whatever with the strings and the loopholes that everybody, municipalities are going to probably get caught with the short end on some of this. So how do we keep aware of that constant changing interpretation or changing rules of engagement so that we don't get left with short straw.
So the actual, there are additional components that require, that's embedded within the language of the law that require agencies to report back to the community on what the project, what the projects entail, what are the outcomes that are associated with the specific projects, and being very transparent with the community. So that's embedded within the requirements of the law. And so we're pretty positive that that small cost directly aligns with what's been put out by the Treasury. But in terms of the other areas, it probably makes sense to not try and jump or stretch connections, but really utilize the information that's been provided in the staff report, but also there's additional documents that have been provided by Treasury that drill down into other specific areas, specific projects, or things that might be eligible or ineligible. So I think they've continued to do webinars. I know that our team has been involved in some of those webinars. I know I've been in some of those webinars, but I know that the League of California Cities has partnered with the feds to do that. I know the National League of Cities has partnered with the feds to do that too. So there's quite a bit of resources out there to ensure that cities don't get left holding the bag on some of these items that may be questionable for cities.
Then, I mean, what you want direction on some areas or avenues tonight? Like go through and brainstorm and go down this list. So I'm just going down this list, and anything that you think of that could be an idea, then staff will bring us back like more detailed proposals. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I look at aid to nonprofits, the household assistance. So we have so many nonprofits already in our valley who do rental assistance or help with utility bills. So if we were to partner with them and say, hey, just like our business grant, if you guys want to put in applications, who wants to participate in this, and then we can award money for them, and then they could manage that. So that's just another idea, by the way.
Yeah,
we could do.
And so the mayor's absolutely right. Whatever, and I would say whatever comes to your mind that may not even reconcile from a surface level, that you may not think it doesn't reconcile with what's been provided, put it out there. We'll do some research because we're just trying to gather as much information as we can from the council so that we can come up with additional ideas. There's a couple items that we mentioned here. For instance, we'll be looking at from a staff recommendation to council. Our current phone system doesn't allow us to answer phone calls from a cellular phone. So we can't forward city phones to a cellular phone. So when we were going through COVID, we were in a very difficult spot because our telephone system didn't allow for that. So those types of instances where we can enhance, whether it's IT infrastructure, to make sure that we're doing what we can. And I'll give another example. There's some items that we had to do when we but we provided employees the opportunity to telecommute. So there were a number of smaller software purchases that we needed to make sure that our IT software systems and security systems ensured that when people were logging in from a computer that wasn't here at the city, that we had the security protocols in place to ensure that everything was secure. So those are some of the connections that we've identified on a staff level that might make sense. We know how we've had to rearrange the video system, the audio system to make for virtual meetings. Those are things that might be allowable that we would explore as well. Other things such as that align with the strategic plan include, contactless permitting systems to allow individuals to apply for permits remotely versus having to come into City Hall. So those things that help encourage virtual means to deal with the city, those are types of things that we'd be exploring, or we are exploring, to see if they align and whether they could be potential items within the guidelines.
One thought that occurred to me that it's kind of along the lines of the business grant, but the utility service providers have all suffered because of the moratorium on paying utility bills. So there's an awful lot of people that are deeply in arrears, and that's unfortunate and has an adverse impact on the service providers. So maybe there's some way that we could infuse some funding for getting people caught up on their utility bills, their rent, and those sorts of things. And that would actually benefit the service providers at the same time.
I look at the tourism, travel, and hospitality, and I think we need to do something. So if you guys come up with some ideas for that, I think, and I don't know if this would apply to this, but we have the Simpson Center, and you look at all the different things on here, whether it's, early learning or just social, emotional, and mental health services. If we could utilize our Simpson Center for a community center and make it about the community. And I know that we've talked about different things, but even you look at this council chambers, and our city meets in the smallest space. And so how is that encouraging community engagement? This is like the smallest room in our city. So if we were able to incorporate a community center that had council chambers and opportunities for all of our local nonprofits to service communities, children all the way to seniors, and even integration, because that's so important. I know Linda's talked about different activities like that. Even our arts center. Letting local nonprofits use the community center to serve would be, that would be in our council protocols, right? We talked about partnerships. So I think there's probably some upgrades that would probably have to happen over there. But this could probably help. I think that if the community had a center to meet in, and that place is huge. Let's see. You could really get wild with all this stuff. I mean, going back to the children with our youth centers, I don't know if there's anything in here for like outdoor exercise, but that's another, Malcolm has talked about that before.
For the parks.
Yes. I mean, all these social healths and
Skate park.
Russ at skate park. Speaking of the mic, Russ, you can't hear you. That done.
It's on.
So what's on your list so far, Chris?
Oh, all right. So far I've got water infrastructure, water wells, sewer infrastructure, small business assistance, utility service, monetary grants, skate park. I've got homelessness solutions, including CityNet swag, potential mental health services, services that the county provide, increasing the number of hours that county outreach works with our police officers. I have tourism and hospitality. I have the Simpson Center, early learning for, I just call it youth. And then I've got council chambers, community engagement, local nonprofits to serve. So partnerships with local nonprofits with the city, outdoor exercise opportunities for youth. I've got parks, and that's the last one that I have.
When you go kind of back to the household assistance with utilities and things like that, could you add food programs? It's one of those really scary situations that, again, I'll go back to our Rotary Club. Rotary clubs usually have between 10 and maybe 15 service projects a year. During COVID, we had 108. They involved interaction with children, getting them out of their houses and getting them down so that eyes could get on them, giving them little goodie bags, but getting them so that we could keep an eye on them, so to speak, but also delivering food to anybody who needed food. Seniors were really, I mean, the mobile home parks, the senior community centers, we were delivering food once and twice a week. And I know my city youth received a healthy grant from the CDBG funding to do, to get improve their facilities so that they could actually improve their assistance in food. But all of a sudden, all of them dried up. And just because the governor says it's over doesn't mean that these people automatically have food on their tables. And we're getting calls all the time saying, is there any chance that we can get food delivered? And all of our sources dried up because the government funding dried up. So if there's anything we can do to help facilitate that, whether it's through other nonprofits, whether it's through some type of additional funding, or just to find the resources that we need to get people to go to, because being hungry is being hungry and it hurts everybody. So if we could add that, another one of my soapboxes.
But I mean, to your point though, we have so many nonprofits that do things and they don't necessarily always have money. Right. So we don't expect you, Chris, to like open up all these activities out of the city, but to partner.
If we can see what the need is from some of them that already do this. I mean, if my city youth needs more, or if World Harvest Church needs more, or Valley Pantry, I mean, there's so many entities that are willing and able. They have the volunteers who are willing to do the outreach and the delivery, but they don't have either the monetary stream or the food stream, because everything, it's not, exactly. COVID's not a problem anymore, and it is still a problem. People are out of work.
And I think, as Veronica mentioned, that you're going to be soliciting input from the community. So I think on that topic right there, we really emphasize the nonprofit organizations, and that's where we're going to probably get the best barometer of what the need is based on what the community survey responses are. So, I think supplementing and supporting the nonprofit organizations and their endeavors is certainly something that we can do, and we can probably home in on that better after we get the survey results back.
And then, the big ticket item that the state is looking at also is the broadband. And that is the future for economic development in our city, is to have that, get that infrastructure and have it in place. So however we need to look at that, again, partnership, collaboration, whatever.
We actually have a meeting that needed to be rescheduled because Spectrum couldn't make it, but they've got some ideas. And so we'd like to.
I know people, their Spectrum goes out all the time, but just.
and so that's something that we'd like to explore on what they even think it means. But even from the city perspective, we've got issues with the fact that even if we had, if I understand correctly, even a new phone system as it stands now, we wouldn't be able to do it because of the cabling that we need, the infrastructure, the fiber that we need just isn't there. So maybe an opportunity to, look at something like that and see if that's allowable as well.
Now, we can just, as we meet with you each week, we can forward information. We're not locked in. As we read things and research, there's always new ideas popping up. So you guys continue to throw things Chris's way. Absolutely.
Yep.
I think we gave you a few things to work on. Got a
Gave
couple
me a
things
few,
there?
yeah. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Veronica, good job. Thank you. Okay, next we have council reports. Councilmember Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report on the Infrastructure Commission. We talked earlier tonight that we have the league conference is going to take place in September this year. Normally, I think it's in October, and so I'm anticipating, just based on what I heard at the division meeting last night, that there's a tremendous response of people registering for this. I think everybody is wanting to get out and stretch their legs and interact, and just from my experience, I garner as much benefit out of interacting with counterparts from other cities during break sessions than you necessarily get out of the breakout session listening to presenters. So I'm looking forward to that in September. The RCHCA has not met recently. They were dark. The Western Community Energy Board is meeting tomorrow, so I'll have some update later after that meeting. The WRCOG had the executive board meeting yesterday, and WRCOG has a new director, gentleman by the name of Kurt, K-U-R-T Wilson is the new director. And he participated in the executive meeting yesterday briefly. And he will also be at the WCE board meeting tomorrow. So I plan to attend that one in person. I did the WRCOG meeting by Zoom yesterday. And I would like to make a plug for live stream. I was pleased to see that city manager executed an agreement with Livestream so that we are once again doing blood donations, this time on the second floor of the library. And those are on the first and third Wednesdays. It started last week, and I was able to make a donation last Wednesday. And for the first time, I actually did the platelets, which it's kind of an interesting process how they do that, and takes a little bit longer because they actually, I called it recycling my blood, because they take it out and then they spin out the platelets and then they put it back in, and then they do that like 3 or 4 times. But a neat feature of Livestream is that I actually got an email several days after making the donation that my blood was used at a local hospital to a recipient at the Riverside Kaiser facility. So, it's kind of like, you do something and you never really know what happens downstream. And so it was a nice, it was a good feeling to know that the donation has already been put to use. They have a significant shortage of blood, so that's why I'm taking this bully pulpit opportunity to promote that and encourage people to come make an appointment and visit there. Staff was great. They were very friendly, very efficient, and painless. And that's all I have.
Yeah. Malcolm, why don't you go next? I was bragging that I haven't coughed all day.
Well, do you want me to let Malcolm go and come back to you?
No.
Oh, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have a whole lot to report either. The library, the summer reading program is ending this week. And then we'll get a report on how many young people and older people participated in that program. RCTC is tomorrow. Let's see, what else? That's about it. We had in the meetings that we're having, because most all of them on a regional level are dark in August, which is really nice. But everybody is planning to come back with hybrid, but definitely in-person meetings in September. So that's an exciting thing. And of course, as Russ said, it's just exciting that the league conference is going to be in person. And yeah, it's kind of nice to get out of the house but I'm always amazed at how many people are still wearing masks, and that's okay. If it's a comfort level for them, I have absolutely no problem with it. And there's been times when I've bounced out of my car and started walking, turned back around and got my mask, and then went, wait a minute. So I've got 3 of them in my purse right now. But it is that thing, what you get used to. But the concerning thing is this Delta virus that is hitting non-vaccinated people. And, you have to respect their choice, but it's still kind of scary. So, we're doing good. And I did want to say just a shout out. It is my middle daughter's birthday today. I was invited to go down to Temecula and go for a hot air balloon ride, but unfortunately it did not, the length of it and what was happening afterwards would have made me late for a meeting. So I told my daughter, I am sorry. So next time I'm going on a hot air balloon ride. Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Actually, she posted part of it on Instagram, and I went, "Oh, shucks, I'm not there." But other than that, everything is going good, and it's just people are astounded that we have continued as a city council to have our live meetings through the entire process, and I say yay for us, because it's good. I mean, I can see some of them being virtual. I hope some of them continue to be virtual, because 5 hours on the freeway into LA for a 3-hour meeting is not a good use of anybody's time. And some people have to drive further than what I do. I mean, they're coming from Imperial County and Blythe to go into LA. So that will probably continue as virtual, which is going to be good. And we still have good interaction. But as Russ said, having conversation, hallway and aisle conversations with people at meetings is beneficial. and just sitting here looking at people is conducive to good health. So I'm done.
Also a lot of negative impact of the Zoom application, you staring at that screen all day and the implications that comes along with that. I had an interesting meeting with an individual from Assembly Member Chad May's office to discuss seeing if we could get some support on our skate park. The office said that they would look into that and see if they could get that on to the agenda in the coming fiscal year, as well as I asked to see if they could help with funding for My City Youth and seeing if they could get help with their gymnasium. And then also to see if we could also get some money for our parks, as they need some infrastructure help. So it was a really exciting meeting. Nothing was promised, but the asked was asked, and so I look forward to seeing how that comes about. That's all I have to report.
Okay, I don't have anything to report on here either. Ad hoc committee reports. If you look through here, just if you want to say something for your ad hoc committee, then speak. No, that one's like a ongoing until we re-up it for next year for checkups.
Yeah, the council protocols ad hoc committee did meet virtually with the city attorney and made a couple of adjustments based on input that we received from city manager. And so I'm anticipating the new red line version of that will be forthcoming. But we've had several renditions of this, but I think we're approaching the finish line.
Okay. And,
probably going to be a matter of when we want to schedule the study session.
okay. Our homeless outreach team or outreach ad hoc committee will probably be having a community meeting here soon. So we'll get that on the books. Any more of those? I do have one ad hoc another ad hoc, you guys, that we need to put together. Or maybe two, but we have our Caltrans ad hoc. It's going to be you two, Linda,
Yeah.
and is that fine?
And I think
Yeah, maybe they can bring us updates here and there.
we'll try.
Yeah, good luck. I know, but yay for trying. Okay.
And I think Malcolm mentioned, can we delete number 2, vision and mission ad hoc?
That one is for that's kind of like our every few quarter, we'll do another
Oh,
update
okay.
or something. And so every year we'll just pick a new group or whatever.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, the other one that I think we need to do is we have on our future agenda items, the attorney services, and we've been working on all of the proposals that we received. So maybe two of us can get together and go through the proposals and at least pick out the meat and bring something back. I could even see a work study type of a deal so that, we can pull out the meat and potatoes and then talk about them and you know what I'm saying?
You must have read my mind because I wrote down
Oh, nice.
a question to ask for future agenda items.
You did?
Because we.
Well, do you want to do it with me, Russ?
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
Because actually when we got those RFPs, it was my, I guess, misunderstanding that was going to be something that we would be taking up. So I went through those things. I spent a lot of time going through and making notes that, kind of trying to do some kind of a comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
what I can try to do maybe before we have that meeting is I'll take my notes hopefully I can still decipher them, because that was back in February that we did that. And do just kind of a comparison matrix.
Okay.
On.
Well, that'd be
on-
good.
On at least the things that
That
stood
you-
out to me.
Okay. Yeah, if you email me that, and then I won't retype anything, and I'll wait and just take notes on that,
Okay.
That'll be awesome. Did you get all those, John Paul? Sorry, we're getting down to business over here.
So for description of just call it Caltrans liaison ad hoc.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yes, I like that. Do you have one for the second one, Russ? I forgot you're the word crafter. Attorney proposal review, whatever.
How about city attorney RFP review?
Hey. Excellent. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we'll go to the city manager report
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
and future agenda items.
Not necessarily a future agenda item, but could we get an update on that solar feasibility? I believe Josh, whatever his last name was, I'm blanking on it, was going to be doing some type of a walkthrough assessment. And I'm sorry that,
Yeah, Josh Stieber.
Just as you put food in your mouth,
There's a bit of candy in my mouth.
busted.
Yeah, I know, you got me. So I spoke to Lynn a few weeks ago about it, and I think they're nearing the final, I think it was the industrial grade audit. I think they're nearing the end of that. So that should be coming soon.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Any of our future agenda items be included in the American Rescue Plan?
That's a really good question. We've been talking internally about whether solar feasibility is something that might be there. So we have had some conversations about it being included there. Just off the top of my head, that's one that stands out to me.
Maybe Brubaker Park. That could be a youth activity upgrade. That place needs some work, so we can upgrade it and then get a plan all in the same time. There we go. Okay. All right. Russ, did you have any more?
No.
Okay. Well, with that, we're gonna. Yeah, right. We already have that. Right.
I know the city manager would love that too.
Our priority list didn't help, did it? Because there was a lot on there. All right, with that, we're going to adjourn back into closed session. Oh, yes.
I did want to point out one thing that I neglected to mention that out of the WRCOG executive meetings. There was a TUMF appeal that the board took up that had to do with an appeal by DR Horton on a development that was in the city of Hemet, and just wanted to report that that the appeal was denied by WRCOG executive. And then the other item had also to do with TUMP, and it's their construction cost index adjustment, their CCI, which is it's kind of equivalent to the CPI. And that hasn't been addressed or updated in quite some time. I think the last update might have been 2017, if I recall. Anyhow, there was a motion, the requested action was to approve a 3% 2021 CPI adjustment for all TUMP land uses. And that motion did pass. It was not unanimous. It was a 13-5 approval to do that. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good arguments on why it's absolutely necessary and a lot of good arguments on why we don't want to do that, because obviously the cost of building materials and everything is driving up the cost of construction. And but the reality is those are going to be passed through to the end consumer. So anyhow, it was a very, very robust discussion and a lot of good points made on both sides of the issue, but that motion did pass. And that's all.
Awesome. Okay. All right. With that, we'll adjourn to the room behind us and finish up our closed session. Good. All right, are we ready to the camera's wrong? Oh yeah, it's the wrong camera. Okay, we are back from closed session. City Attorney, would you like to report out?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have no item to report out of closed session.
All right, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Can you hammer that? Whenever you feel like that. I don't have a hammer. Thanks for your progress.
Oh, you're welcome.
Don't laugh. I have three little stickers. Oh, your butterfly. My little dragonfly. I like that.
Dragonfly?
No.
We'll see you tomorrow. I found her. Good night. With Kevin Costner. And good night.
For your motorcycle?
Yeah. Kevin Costner. Doctor. Philanthropic medical in a remote area of remote area of South America.
And it's just called Dragonfly?
It's called Dragonfly.